Selena Quintanilla. The truth they never told us. They said it was an open and shut case. A jealous fan. A tragic mistake. Justice served. And for nearly 30 years that's the story we all accepted. But what if the truth is more complicated? What if key voices were silenced, secrets were buried, and the full story of Selena Quintanilla's final days was never told? Not really. You're about to hear the version no one wanted in the spotlight. Because the truth? It's finally breaking through. For decades, Chris Perez, Selena's husband and former bandmate, stayed mostly quiet. You'd hear his name, see him at memorials, but when it came to what went on behind the scenes, silence. Until now. In 2025, during a rare and emotional interview tied to a new docuseries, Chris spoke out. And not just about the romance, he talked about the pressure Selena was under, the moments of fear and exhaustion that no fan ever saw. He remembered nights when Selena would lie awake, emotionally drained, questioning if the life she was living was really hers, or someone else's dream. Chris described how the more successful she became, the more trapped she felt. Pulled between record labels, public expectations, business obligations, and most painfully, her own father. There's a reason Chris waited all this time to speak. Out of respect for Selena's legacy, and honestly, fear of how her tightly managed image would respond. But as he said himself, there are things that need to be said, not to change the past but to understand it. And what he said next hit hard. Chris discovered Selena's private journals and handwritten letters. Pages she never shared. Dreams she never acted on. Worries she never voiced out loud. In those writings, Selena admitted she wanted more control over her own music. That she didn't always trust the people closest to her. That she was thinking, just thinking, about stepping away from the spotlight to reclaim her life. She wrote that cracks were forming. That something didn't feel right. That her trust in people was starting to feel more like an obligation than a choice. Chris didn't say who she meant. But he didn't have to. The message was clear. Selena was beginning to see the difference between loyalty and control. No one embodied that control more than Abraham Quintanilla, Selena's father. He discovered her talent early and turned it into a family business. He was her manager, her producer, her protector. But also the gatekeeper of every decision. He made it clear, Tejano music was their identity. Crossovers? English pop? That would come later, when he decided she was ready. And when Selena fell in love with Chris, Abraham exploded. He saw Chris as a threat, someone who might pull Selena away from the empire he'd built. The couple tried to hide their relationship. They'd sneak around, keep things secret from the band, even pretend to be just co-workers on tour. But when Selena couldn't take it anymore, she eloped with Chris in 1992. A private courthouse wedding. No dress. No family. Just two young people choosing love over permission. Abraham was furious. He eventually came around, but the damage was already done. The lines had been drawn. Even after accepting their marriage, he never truly let go of control. Not over Selena's image, her business, or her life. And then came Yolanda Saldivar. She started off as a superfan. Harmless. Devoted. She convinced Abraham to let her run the official fan club. Then somehow she climbed higher, managing both of Selena's boutiques, handling finances, and gaining unprecedented access to the most private corners of Selena's world. To outsiders, Yolanda was tireless, loyal, always present. But to boutique employees, something was off. They noticed missing paychecks, erratic behavior, weird purchases, emotional manipulation. Staff reported concerns, but no one moved quickly. Selena believed Yolanda had good intentions. She even considered her a close friend. That was the miscalculation. The one that would cost everything. In March 1995, Abraham, Suzette, and Selena confronted Yolanda. They had evidence of embezzlement and fraud. Yolanda denied it all. Abraham insisted on cutting her off immediately. But there was one last problem. Yolanda still had financial documents that Selena needed. Paperwork that was crucial to keeping the boutiques running and protecting her reputation. Selena insisted on retrieving them herself. And so, on March 31st, against her family's wishes, Selena drove to the Days Inn motel to meet Yolanda one last time. That meeting was supposed to be quick, professional, a formality. Instead, it became the moment everything changed. Just before noon, a gunshot shattered the silence of room 158. Selena staggered out, bleeding from a gunshot wound to her shoulder, crying for help. As she collapsed in the lobby, she named her killer, Yolanda Saldivar, and told hotel staff the room number before losing consciousness. Emergency responders did everything they could. But the bullet had ripped through a major artery. Selena was declared brain dead at the hospital. Forensic experts later determined the shot was intentional. A downward angle, hollow point bullet, consistent with someone who aimed to harm, not an accident as Yolanda later claimed. Now fast forward to 2025. Yolanda Saldivar became eligible for parole. And right before the hearing she started changing her story, again. In new interviews she claimed Selena had escalated the fight. That she was afraid. That the gun just went off. Legal experts saw through it. So did fans. The parole board denied her request, citing the brutality and deliberate nature of the crime, and Yolanda's failure to take real responsibility. But the damage was already done. Because in trying to gain sympathy, Yolanda reopened old wounds for everyone who loved Selena. Chris called the new claims a desperate revision of the truth. Suzette was even more direct, calling it an insult to Selena's memory. And fans? They mobilized like never before. Petitions, vigils, hashtags. Because for them this wasn't just about prison time, it was about respecting the truth. But here's where things get even more complicated. The battle over Selena's story didn't end with the trial. It's still going. Selena's family controls her image, music, and brand. They approve all official content. That includes documentaries, biopics, merchandise, even how she's portrayed in media. Some of that content is beautiful. But some fans and critics argue that these portrayals avoid uncomfortable truths. The pressure she was under. Her private fears. The control around her. Instead, we often see an idealized version of Selena. One that's safe, marketable, but maybe not real. And with Netflix and other platforms producing content that features Yolanda's perspective, that balance is tipping. Some say those shows are educational. Others call them exploitative. The big question, should someone who committed a violent act get to tell their version of the story, especially when the victim can't speak for herself? So who owns Selena's legacy? Is it the family who raised her? The husband who loved her? The fans who still blast her music in their cars and wear her face on t-shirts? Or is it bigger than that? Is her legacy something we all share, a collective memory that deserves the whole truth even if it's messy? Behind the glamour, Selena was a woman trying to find her voice, fighting for autonomy, loving deeply, trusting people who didn't always deserve it. And in the end, that's what makes her story so powerful and so tragic. Because what happened in room 158 wasn't just a betrayal. It was the result of too many ignored warnings, too much silence, too many people believing the myth instead of the person. If you're feeling shaken, you're not alone. This story isn't just about music or fame, it's about love, pressure, control, and the painful cost of trust. Drop a comment and let us know how you see it now. Do you believe there's still more to uncover? And who do you think should be telling Selena's story? If this gave you chills, or opened your eyes, go ahead and like, subscribe, and tap the bell. Because the truth? It always finds a way to the surface. And we're just getting started.